This is how Jin Ping Mei is read Chapter 30, Embroidered Portrait Version. Grand Master Kai is good at bestowing honors. And Simon King is given a high official position after giving birth to his son. 1. Add an official casually and give birth to a child suddenly. The last time Wu Shengshan Bingjian Shengxing had already foreshadowed that Simon King would soon give birth to a child and be promoted to an official position. However, after all, Li Ping'er was pregnant with the child, so is it so easy to be promoted to an official position? Indeed, happiness came so suddenly. Simon King inexplicably got a 5th grade official. Li Ping'er, who didn't know when she became pregnant, immediately gave birth to a fair son for him. Simon King's life and the story of the Simon family have been turned upside down. Regarding the appointment, the story is very simple. Lai Bao brought gifts to visit Kai Jing's housekeeper Zai Jin, and was introduced to Kai Jing. Taishi Kai looked at the load of expensive gifts and casually gave an empty notice. That is, an empty personnel appointment and dismissal notice. Wherever there is a vacancy in an official position, he can give it to whoever he wants. As a result, Simon King was given the title of Deputy Punisher of Shandong Punishment Center. 5 rank officials from thousands of households, and even Lai Bo and Wu Dian, who were running errands for him, also followed the chicken and dog ascend to heaven and regained an official position. Historically and politically, this scenario is absolutely impossible. It is impossible to give bribes so openly, not to mention that the Grand Master is one person less than 10,000 people in the imperial court. How can it be so childish? So this is just a market novel, and there is nothing to talk about exposing darkness or criticizing reality. According to my opinion, we can simply understand the surreal part of it as a fable. Anyway, these have never been the strengths of Jin Ping Mei. I already said this when Reibo first went to Tokyo, so there is no need to delve into these parts of this novel. Pressing on the promotion part, the part of giving birth is obviously much more interesting. The most skillful part of Jin Ping Mei is often these unremarkable simple stories. Let's take a look at people's specific reactions to Li Ping'er's birth. First of all, about the time of production. The day is June 23rd. When did Li Ping'er enter Simon's house? Li Ping'er married into Simon's family on August 20th of the previous year, and Simon King didn't enter her room until the 4th day, which was August 23rd. From August 23rd to June 23rd, it was a full 10 months, exceeding the so-called 10 months of pregnancy time difference. However, the ancients did not have prenatal checkups or ultrasounds, and the women in the family had no birth experience, so no one could tell when it would be. Wu Yunyang felt that she was about to give birth, but she wanted to be safe. Pan Jinlian believed that it would be at least August. She did not believe that Li Ping'er, who was not a yellow flower daughter, got pregnant as soon as she got married. Of course, there was nothing wrong with it. The reason is purely jealousy. Meng Yulu did not agree with Pan Jinlian this time, and she cleverly avoided the topic. Obviously, this was a taboo related to the bloodline of the Simon family, and it was definitely not something that people other than the husband and wife could easily comment on, especially concubines like them who are at the forefront. My only question is that regardless of whether Li Ping'er is pregnant with Simon King's child, Jade Xuanli is already 9 months pregnant. How could Simon King not know about it? This is almost the biggest flaw in the whole book Jin Ping Mei. I am puzzled, and leave it to other colleagues. The baby is finally born. Let's take a look at everyone's attitude toward childbirth. Simon Singh. I heard that Li Ping'er had a stomachache and was rolling on the kang, so he immediately called the boy Feng Pao. Please ask Mrs. Kai to go. The word Feng Pao is very interesting, and it describes the anxiety of the to-be father got to have a clear view. When there was a croak in the room and a baby was delivered, Simon King thanked the gods and prayed for peace, and was extremely busy. Later, at night, I rested in Li Ping'er's room and kept visiting the child. Simon King was so happy and cherished this child, and doted on his mother. Undoubtedly, all this made other wives and concubines jealous. Inside, Wu Yunyang showed great concern for Li Ping'er, who was about to give birth. On the one hand, this was to please Simon King, and on the other hand, it was also a reflection of her aunt's demeanor. For her, this was Li Ping'er's child. And more importantly, it was Li Ping'er's child. It's her child. The dedication and effort involved are the same as burning incense on a moonlit night. Li Jiar, Sun Zue, Li Jiar didn't react at all. Maybe her professional habits as a prostitute made her hate giving birth to children, right? Sun Zue was eager to show hospitality, although this may not necessarily lead to a good relationship with Li Ping'er. She at least expressed the common mentality of people seeking advantages and avoiding disadvantages. Meng Yulu, when Pan Jinlian made sarcastic remarks and doubted the child's bloodline, Meng Yulu was uncharacteristically unsympathetic. Obviously, she has seen the situation clearly. This protracted war will be very difficult. Li Ping'er will be the target of public criticism after giving birth to a son. At this time, Pan Jinlian no longer needs a catalyst. Therefore, she was smart and tactful and chose the appropriate silence at the appropriate time. Pan Jinlian, when I heard that the baby had been born, the whole family was happy and became a mess. They became more and more angry. They went straight to the room, closed the door, and cried on the bed. Family is happy. Everyone mentioned above is actually just to contrast Pan Jinlian. Crying on the bed. These cold, short 6 words fully describe the deep loneliness and loss in Pan Jinlian's heart. She is smart, but this smartness is a double-edged sword. Under heavy pressure and in adversity, her sensitive heart can kill herself. Perhaps, facing the powerlessness of fate. Sometimes she is confused or pretends to be confused. How much happier. In her boyhood, Wang Zhaoxuan's mansion and Zhang Die's family were all lingering shadows. In her youth, the vulgarity of Wuhan University and Wu Song's heroic and ferocious martial arts were all unforgettable. Nightmares and the bloodshed under the arsenic was still there. It had not faded, and the man she loved, the one who had been complicit in the bloodshed, was now celebrating their new child with another woman. This is Pan Jinlian. In order to be able to struggle in the adversity of having no power, no money, no resources, no one to rely on, her only hope has always been Simon King. She defeated those competitors, but could not defeat fate, which kept arranging new things. Competitors came to her, each more powerful than the last. She no longer had the ability to prevent the birth of this child. She was unwilling to witness the whole family using the child to please Simon King. Once upon a time, in order to compete for favor, she did not hesitate to show her lewdness to others. It was not that she had not heard Wu Yunyang's repeated calls of a whore and a vixen, but she could not care about them. She cut off Sister Li Gui and made Song Huilian angry to death. She had no way out, however, in the Jade Pavilion, under the grape trellis. The garden beauty gang partner who had been with her day and night to show off her prostitution and stop men, unexpectedly gave birth to a fat and white son. At this moment, there was no one to blame. In comparison, Meng Yulu, who kept saying united front with her, didn't even dare to talk to her at the moment. In order to compete for favor, the Lantang invitation for a noon battle full of wisdom and enthusiasm also disappeared in an instant. Simon King turned out to be humane, and it turned out that he could give up his sexual interest and rest in the mother's room for a night. The smart Pan Jinlian can think of how lonely she will be in the years to come. The loss, jealousy, fear, hatred, sadness bursts out of her eyes like a tide, and with 6 cold words, crying to the bed. There are so many complex meanings here. 2. Research chapter, rediscussing the structural issues. Structural issues are a major issue that cannot be ignored in every novel. Learners of writers can appreciate the author's grand ideas from excellent works, and readers and appreciators can discover more hidden codes of the text from the structural arrangement and fully enjoy the spirit of the novel world. Pleasure. The greatest benefit is from the critics, who can constantly renovate ideas from the structure of the novel and solve the problem of eating, even though the author himself may be surprised. However, all this is quite difficult for Jin Ping Mei, because the author and rewriter of Jin Ping Mei actually don't have much literary awareness in the structural design. Compared with novels such as The Romance of the Three Kingdoms and Water Margin with well-organized storylines, the structure of Jin Ping Mei is even more a bit disorganized. The previous article proposed a 206020 structure, and this time we propose a 30303010 structure. This structure is based on the perspective of the male protagonist's personal development and the heroine's battle for favor. In the first 30 chapters, Simon King continues to accumulate primitive resources and his wings are becoming more and more full. The war for favor of the Simon family changes with the upgrade of the territory, but it is mainly the war between Pan Jinlian and other opponents. In the 30 chapters, Simon King gives birth to a son and becomes an official. As her career continues to expand and develop, the battle for favor between Pan Jinlian and Li Ping'er of the Simon family intensifies. In the end, Pan Jinlian drives Li Ping'er and her son into desperation in her constant madness and morbidity, but she herself suffers both losses. Chapter 60 Li Ping'er. This is fully expressed in the title Suffering from Illness and Death. Simon King's career as an official. In the last 30 chapters, Simon King's music is extremely sad, turning from prosperity to decline. Until he dies, the tree falls and the Hosens disperse, and Wu Yunyang takes the lead in the final battle for favor. By the end, Pan Jinlian was finally sold to the Simon family and killed by Wu Song. The last 10 chapters ended with Meng Yulu remarrying, and the story of the Simon family ended. Chen Mai became the protagonist and became the pinnacle of power, and the old Chiguan became a thing of the past. The story is over. Chapter 30 is particularly meaningful when viewed from this perspective. For Simon King, promoting an official position is the reward he gets from his continuous efforts. In the first 30 chapters, for Pan Jinlian, the fight for favor in the first 30 chapters is a war between women, and having children makes the fight for favor in the last 30 chapters turned into a war between whore and mother. This chapter focuses on the two matters of being promoted to an official position and giving birth to a child. The promotion of being promoted to an official position is a blessing from Daddy Kai, Grand Master Kai Jing. Later Simon Qingbai was adopted as a foster father, and the birth of a son is a blessing from Kai Lao Niang midwife. The child he gave birth to was called Brother Guan, and the two things seemed to be the same thing, revealing the beginning of Simon King's rise to prominence. On the other hand, at the beginning of this chapter, Zhang En, the grave watcher, suddenly appeared to report on the work, which also fully paved the way for the following chapters. Before Simon King became an official, there were only outdoor outings and spring swings during the Tomb Sweeping Festival. After Simon King became an official, he would arrange a massive group tomb sweeping ceremony to pay homage to his ancestors. The origin of this was when he asked Zhang En to buy the house next to the Simon family's ancestral tomb. The Landand House. There is a 4-eye well in the house, which was named for springs after Simon King became an official. The maid Jia Huier gives orders, Fu Haoan steals gold, Li Ping'er persuades a fight and beats Qiu Chu, Fu Haoan beats the dog, etc. Obviously, the entire goal of this episode is to prepare for the next 30 episodes. Regarding the structural issue, let me say a few words. The second 30 chapters are the liveliest part in the whole book of Jin Ping Mei, which itself implies a two-line structure. On the one hand, Simon King's power is growing day by day. On the other hand, Pan Jinlian's hysteria is becoming increasingly morbid, and the former is about Simon King's life. Kai, the latter about Simon King's sex. The two lines develop in parallel and synchronously, and it is interesting to interpret in detail. By the middle of the book, a parabolic structure with chapters 49 and 50 as the dividing points will be proposed to reveal the transformation process of Simon King and the Simon family from prosperity to decline, which is also a structural perspective. In addition, some scholars, such as Andy Pu from the United States, proposed the idea of a structure for every 10 chapters and made a conceptual review of each 10 chapters, which is also reasonable. In general, many different structural methods can be proposed for the complex and seemingly random narrative method of Jin Ping Mei. But no matter which structure is used, it is difficult to cover all creative characteristics. So I can only say that each structural method provides readers with a perspective of reading and observation. These perspectives help readers understand the text and the story more deeply. As a reader, I think these are enough.
Alright, this part of the story ends here. Want to know what happened next? Let's listen to the breakdown next time.